Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Master Your Mindset podcast. I have another special guest here today who I've actually done a live IG with, so you might be familiar with her. Today we have Eloise. So, Eloise is a mindset coach who helps others achieve a more purposeful and fulfilling life. Welcome to the Master Your Mindset podcast, Eloise.
Thank you, and hello, everyone.
So excited to have you here because I know in the live IG that we did together, it was a conversation where we both just could have continued talking forever
Yeah,
about all things to do with like confidence and how to navigate negative thoughts and things like that. So I really wanted to bring you on to continue that conversation and dive a little bit deeper into that. So how does that sound?
yeah. I could definitely talk forever, and sometimes have to, cut it short, especially on something like a live Instagram. So I like that we can dive a bit deeper into it this time.
Amazing. So I would love for you to firstly tell the listeners a little bit about your story, just in terms of, who you were back then versus who you are and where you are now.
Yep. So I spoke about this briefly on the Instagram, but my main purpose for starting coaching was due to my mental health. I'd struggled with that a lot in the past and still from time to time do. So I think it was the start of 2022, and I had gone through like a 6 month rut. I just couldn't seem to get myself out of it. Nothing was working. I was seeing a psychologist, but that was only on a fortnightly sort of basis. And I just needed something more. I didn't know what it was, but I just didn't feel like I had much purpose in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was just kind of spiraling every single day, pretty much. So I actually had thought 12 months before about becoming a coach. And I'd always wanted to do psychology, but I didn't want to go to uni. I just am not much of a school person. So yeah, I came across coaching, and I was like, well, firstly, I want to work with my own coach. And someone else that I knew of had worked with a coach that lived in Tasmania, actually, which is where I'm from. And yeah, I ended up investing in her package, which was like massive for me. I couldn't believe like how much I was investing in myself at the time. And it was 8 weeks, and it was one-on-one, and it was just honestly, I don't know, I don't even have the words for it. Like, I think that it just flipped my world upside down. And it wasn't even necessarily just working on mental health, it was all of the stuff surrounding me that was creating my mental state, like to be in a poor state, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much, we went from there. And then I started my own coaching business and continued to invest in other coaches. And that's where we met, in the mastermind as well, for 4 months. And now I guess my purpose is just to help people that are either in similar situations to what I was in, struggling with mental health, or just struggling with the day-to-day stuff, feeling like they're not really fulfilled in their life. It's a bit mundane, but they don't really know where to start. And yeah, I guess I saw a bit of a gap between like going to a psychologist and that sort of mentoring and supportive guide there can be a lot different to what a coach actually does. Hence why I just, yeah, I don't know, bit of a long-winded explanation, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
When you say you went to your first coach that 8 weeks, did your world get flipped upside down and your mental health got worse, or did that happen and then you went
Oh,
up?
no, better, like so much better. I
So
think that that was just like the turning point for me. As soon as I just got to this point where I was like, enough's enough. Like, I can't keep doing this. I didn't know. I wanted to help myself, but I guess I didn't know how to. And my beautiful partner, like, he did what he could, but there's also a point where like you need external help. And yeah, the psychologist wasn't working, nothing else was working. And then I started with this coach, and I don't even know what it was, but I think it was just genuinely putting in the effort to like into myself, investing in myself, time, energy, money, all of the above. And the fact that she could just reflect like my blind spots, like I was so tunnel visioned on certain problems and creating my own problems, that she was like, hold up, like I can see what you're doing here. And there were so many behaviors and patterns that like she just kind of made me aware of so that I could steer away from them in the future. And it wasn't an overnight thing. I think even after the 8 weeks and even now, like, still got so much to learn, so much to work on, but it's just becoming self-aware of your destructive sort of behaviors and patterns. And that's just where it all sort of, changed.
It's so it is a journey, and it's so interesting once we're actually able to see our patterns and our behaviors and how we're contributing to, however we are feeling currently, and how we actually can be that person to turn that around. But with a little bit of external help, it's actually really helpful to see those blind spots and see what you're not seeing and from a different perspective. I love having coaches. I was actually talking to a friend today about how they were able to, with actually their therapist was able to help them to be able to see their blind spots and their core patterns that they continuously keep playing out in relationships, and how now that can actually be the pivoting point for them. Big journey. But so I really feel with your story there are going to be people out there that can definitely resonate in terms with, going through mental health issues and the feelings like that. I would love to know, just from your opinion and having gone through those types of feelings, what sort of advice do you have for someone that right now is just so clueless as to even what to do right now?
I feel like there's so many sort of different avenues here, but firstly, like, talk to someone, like, whether that's your best mate, whether that's your partner, whether that's your mum or your dad. Make sure that they are aware, because the more that you like sit in silence and the more that you think that no one cares and no one's going to listen, the worse it's going to get. So I think the best thing you could do is just speak up and talk about it. And as much as that can be really, really terrifying to start with, like, it's not an easy thing to do. And that's why I like having a social media platform, so I can try and normalize it and make it more of a conversation that isn't uncomfortable to have. So definitely reach out to someone that you trust just to talk about it. And you never know, like, it could really help to have someone that is aware, and they might be experiencing a similar thing and, not feeling comfortable enough to talk about it with someone either. So you could help someone out as well as helping yourself out. And just, I guess, like, at the end of the day, you've got to take responsibility and know that you want to change and know that you want to do it for yourself and to get better, and that you don't want things to stay the same. And it's so, so hard when you're in like that dark hole and you just want to give up. Like, you don't think that it's going to get better. You don't think that there's much purpose or, point you even trying. That's deep and everything. But just genuinely, you've got to do it for yourself at the end of the day. And as much as external help is great and that support is awesome, that motivation, that encouragement to do better for yourself. But I think that at the end of the day, you've got to want to do it for yourself, because otherwise you're probably, you've got to want to help yourself. End of life. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's deep, but also it is true. Some people do feel this way 100%. And I think it happens more than people realize. Like, mental health issues is a problem, and it is a thing that's out there. And you're not alone if that is the case, because if you think that is the case, because there are people out there as well that are in the same boat. And this is really cool, and why I really love your platform to be normalizing these types of things. I think it's super, super important for people to realize that they're not alone, and that they can get help, and that there is hope, and that they don't have to be feeling this way. So that is really, really cool. And I would love to step it up a notch and come to the people who do want to change, whether it be anything. It doesn't have to be in terms of mental health, but just people that want to change, or just to better their mindset, to better their life, to go after their goals, to go after their dreams. What I find a lot is that people will get their vision in sight, or they know that there is a change that they do want to make, but sometimes change doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey. And like you say, you did your first 8-week course. That was 8 weeks, and that was incredible and phenomenal and life-changing for you. And so a lot of people get really unmotivated if it doesn't happen fast for them, or if they don't start to see results quickly. What sort of advice do you have for the people who are wanting to make a change but do become really unmotivated really quickly?
Yeah, I think that just genuinely like being aware of the fact that you've got to be grateful for how far you've come and proud of yourself, firstly. Like, be proud of where you were a month ago, be proud of where you were 12 months ago compared to now. And there are going to be days where it's really tough and you're not going to feel motivated because you are having the same thoughts going around in your head, and you're like, crap, I thought we'd been over this, I thought we'd gotten over it, but we're here again. And it's really easy to just throw in the towel and be like, that's it, like, I don't want to keep trying anymore. I've done all this work and nothing's helped me. But little do you know that, like, you've actually just had a really good 6 months, for example, and you're just having one bad day or one bad week. That it's focus on the good instead of focusing in on the bad. And it's so much easier said than done. Like, I get how hard it is. Sometimes everyone still has bad days. I still struggle with it sometimes, except the difference is that I've done the work and kind of built up some coping mechanisms and different patterns, and I'm aware of what happens. Like, okay, what my triggers are and what happens if this happens, and what I need to do if I don't want to ruin my entire day and just lay in bed and think, oh, this is also pointless, because I now have a standard for myself and I know that I'm better than that. And I know, and I'm not saying that like I can't feel depressed or I can't feel anxious or whatever it is, but just knowing that, okay, you can have this minute and you can, feel sorry for yourself and all of the things, but just know that you have to get on with your day. And it's, yeah, really discouraging when you are kind of in that moment and you're like, crap, like, I've done all of this work. I really just want to keep going. I want to keep growing, and I don't want to feel like this anymore. But you have a decision to make, and you can either think, okay, I can play into the mindset of, I've gotten nowhere, all this is for nothing, blah, blah, blah. Or you can think, okay, this is just a crappy moment. I've done all of this work. Look at how far I've come. I'm proud of myself and I'm going to keep going. And like I said, it is a lot easier said than done, but you have a choice in that moment. You can choose to spiral and go downhill with all of the bad thinking thoughts, or you can choose to try and be as positive as possible and look back at how far you've come.
I totally agree. It's actually a message that I have been putting out there a lot recently, and it's the importance of reflection and to see actually how far you've come. It's a conversation that I've been having with most of my clients. It's so important, and it seems so simple, the reflection and just to actually acknowledge how far you've come already, but it's the one thing that is probably missed a lot, which is a really, really, really important step. And I will just, I'll also put my hand up and say, like, I think that is a really important piece to say here. The seeing how far you've come. If you don't acknowledge how far you've come, you're just living on autopilot and you're just carrying on, and you're not even seeing that you're doing better than you think. And then when you actually do take some time out, because that is the investment, it's time. You need to give your time to actually see how far you've come, see what were your wins, see what were your challenges, how did you deal with those challenges, did you like the way you dealt with those challenges, do you want to move forward with them, or would you like to deal with them in a different way next time, and just like really understand what was going on. And that will actually, you'll start to notice that there were so many wins. And there were so many challenges, maybe, but also you dealt with them really well, or you've grown from it. Like you say, you want to keep going, you want to keep growing. So I think it's super, super important, but it's also missed a lot. So
Yeah. And this is why I journal about the wins, but I also journal about the tough times, so that when I look back through it, like, I have a journal for every single year. And sometimes I'll just read back through an old one and I'm like, wow, like, I actually this is how I felt when I first started my business, or this is how I felt when this was happening. And wow, that was pretty crappy. But like, I kind of, well, now my journal entries are a bit different. It's kind of me coaching myself through things. But it's just really interesting to see like how I have evolved over the time, and even over the course of the last few months. Like, yeah, you're constantly growing and learning new things. And it's, yeah, a good way to, I guess, keep track of that and acknowledge how far you've come.
I love that. So many breakthroughs or so many realizations coming up anyway. I
Mm.
do the same thing. Like I have so many journals over the years, and I like to sometimes, it's kind of scary sometimes because I know I've been to some dark places. So I don't
Mm.
know if I really want to revisit that, but also it's really good to see how far, I've actually come from whenever that time was and whatever I'd written. But also I was having a conversation with a client last night, and I actually challenged her to do some things. And one of those things was to journal at least once every day this week. Just
Yeah.
to get, a reason for journaling is to get your monkey mind gone so that you can sleep better and whatnot. But
Yeah.
it was really, really cool because we were coaching about certain things that she felt like she hadn't been doing well and all of this. And when she had looked back into her journal, her last journal entry was actually a month ago. She
Mm.
realized what she had written over this past month, what she had written that she really wanted, she had done. And she didn't even acknowledge that. So there's another point, like a reason why you want to acknowledge it, because she wouldn't have realized, she would have gone on with her life. But actually looking back to see, she's like, oh, I've already done it. What am I worrying about? And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. I love that.
No, it's really funny when it happens like that. It's like how you always want the next best thing, and you never really focus on where you are and how this is once upon a time exactly what you had hoped for.
Mhm.
And it's happening all around you. And you're just like, okay, now I want this next best thing. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So I think that it's always really important to make sure that you're expressing gratitude, and yeah, just like we've been saying, acknowledging how far you've come.
Mm. Yeah, I also totally agree. It's like, as like, let's just say a really common example would be, you're always wanting more, right? And you're getting a little bit of satisfaction out of the thing that you do achieve, like the big thing, but then you want the next thing faster. So it's like, I don't know, you leave school, you go to university, you get the university degree. That gives you a little bit of like serotonin, happy endorphins, like you feel good, you've achieved something. And then, okay, cool, a couple days have passed. Now, what's the next thing? I want more. Okay, now you look for the partner, you get engaged, you get married. Cool, that
Mhm.
was fun. What's next? Okay, you buy
Yeah.
the house together. Next, you have the kids together. Like you're always going to want more. So if we actually just stop and, like you say, takes our chance or take those moments to express gratitude for what we do have, and all of those things, it's going to feel so much better in the time, and you're not going to always feel like you need more. It's just going to be like, cool, like this is the next thing. I'm very happy with what I've got, and I get to have this as a bonus. I really love that.
Yeah, it's really, really important. I think it's very common for us all to just kind of bypass being grateful for what we've got in the moment, and to just, yeah, always want more. It's not always
Mm,
a bad thing to want more, I guess, but it depends if you're still grateful for what you've got.
mm. And okay, so a common conversation I've been having in, my circles at the moment, I think this is also a common conversation that you have been having as
Mhm.
well. And this is a question based off of the posts that you have been posting recently. It's about how people let their excuses get the better of them or win. So when someone wants something and they come up with all the excuses in the world so that they don't get that, I'm just curious as to what your advice would be for that person.
Yeah. So, well, something I've noticed massively lately is that, like, my partner is so, like, everything is really simple for him, whereas things for me seem to be really complicated. And I guess it's the way that I perceive things. It's the way that I choose to make them complicated sometimes. And for example, the gym's a big one. No one wants to get up early and go to the gym every single day. I get that. But I was just constantly making excuses like, oh, I'm not feeling that great today, or whatever it is. But then I was like soothing myself, and like that was completely okay. Like, oh, it's all right. Like, you don't have to go to the gym. We'll try again tomorrow. And I was constantly doing it, but then wondering why I was feeling like crap. And whereas he's wanted to have a bit of his own sort of exercise journey, and he just does it. No issues, no excuses. And I'm like, well, how is it that easy for you? And he's just like, oh, well, how is it that hard for you? Like, and this is why I like our dynamic, because I actually learn a lot from him as well. But what I'm saying is that sometimes it really is that simple. If you want something bad enough, you just have to do it. And you're not always going to feel motivated. You're not always going to get up in the morning and be like, yeah, I really want to go and do this run, or I really want to cook this really nice breakfast for myself, because it's how you feel when you do it. And I guess holding on to that feeling a lot of the time is that if I do this thing, I know that I'm going to feel really good mentally. I'm going to set myself up for the day. And that's more important than me laying in bed for an extra hour and listening to my excuses. And that's completely fine. But it's up to you to choose that, I guess, this is more important, and that you're not going to listen to your excuses anymore. So I would say that figure out your why. Like, why do you want something? Are you just going to the gym every morning because everyone else is, or are you doing it because it makes you feel really mentally great and set up for your day? Do you want to go for a walk every morning instead? Would you prefer running, yoga, Pilates, dancing? I don't know, whatever it is. Like, I guess find something that works for you. Otherwise, you're going to be forcing yourself to do it every single day, and it's going to become a chore.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where discipline comes in, that, like I said before, you're not always going to feel motivated, that you have to be disciplined enough to go, right, okay, and this is where it matters. It's the days that I don't want to go that count, because that's where my discipline's kicking in. And if on the days that you don't go, you're not showing up for yourself, then that's where you've just got, I guess, holes in the relationship with yourself. You've just got, imagine a bucket, and you're just trying to patch it up with your excuses, your little band-aid. You've got holes in it and water's leaking out of it. That's such a strange way of looking at it, but
I love it.
I don't know why I just use that, but I'm just thinking of it. And I'm like, yeah, you've got a bucket with water. And each time that you disrespect yourself by saying, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, but then you don't, or I don't really want to do this, and I'm going to people please and do it anyway. Like, you're just sticking holes in your bucket, and your excuses are just some band-aids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my long-winded advice.
No, I love it. It's so funny with the analogy thing. I always give analogies, and at the end of it, I'm like, wait, that did make sense, but it's so strange how I even thought about that.
Did it make sense though, or is it only making sense to me? But no, I hope it somewhat makes sense.
Absolutely. And as you were talking, I was thinking it's that conversation of choose your hard, right? Because, yep, it may be hard to get up off the couch when you're feeling sluggish and lazy, and you know you should be going to the gym. You're telling yourself, I know I should, but I'm not going to go to the gym. That is actually hard. But it's also hard to not go to the gym and then complain every day that you're not going to the gym and disrespecting yourself because you know what you want to do, but you didn't actually do it. So it's like, choose your hard. They're both hard. Which one are you going to choose?
You just reminded me of something that Sarah said to me in the mastermind, is choose to have better problems.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I actually, like, it's so simple, but it's so good. It's really effective. Like, choose to have better problems. Like, if getting up and going to the gym is going to be your biggest problem for the day, like, yeah, choose to have a better problem, because is that really a problem that you're going to have? Anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. Like, is your problem going to be that you're going to sit on the couch and not go to the gym? Or is your problem going to be that you have to get off the couch, go to the gym, and actually feel really good after? Which problem do you want to have? Way better problem.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess that comes into, choose your heart as well. Like,
yeah, amazing. I'm loving this conversation. All right. And so another thing that I wanted to talk about was beginner mindset. And adopting a beginner mindset has actually been something that has helped me with my mindset growth and just growth in general in life. And the reason being is because I used to get in, like, okay, I've done a lot of courses, a lot of learning. I love learning. Learning is my core value. But every time you go, even if I'm rewatching something over, like, if I didn't adopt a beginner mindset, I wouldn't have been able to learn something new from that or see things from a different perspective. So I did give myself, or I allowed myself to have a beginner mindset, and everything just changed for me. And I could see so much more, I could learn so much more, and I could grow so much more. It definitely was my ego, but I would love to know from your perspective, why do people find it so hard to, adopt a beginner mindset and actually let that, without them realizing, block them from their own growth?
Yeah, I can totally agree with you that as soon as I adopted a beginner mindset, like yeah, a lot came up for me around this. And something that ever since I was little, I've always hated being told like how to do something. If it was as simple as mowing the lawns, like I'll figure out how to start the lawnmower myself. I'll figure out how to do this myself. I don't want help. And that was just like a huge sort of ego for me. I was like, why am I actually like that? And now I have let myself be a beginner because I've always just wanted to be great at everything. And it's the same with coaching. I think it comes with a level of like entitlement, that you think that you're entitled to X amount of money, X amount of skills, like whatever it is. And when I first started coaching, I was like, cool, this is going to be great. And this is me being completely honest, but I thought, oh, I'll be able to quit my full-time job. This will happen. This will happen. And I was doing all the things that like coaches that have been in the game for like 3, 5, 6 longer years were doing. And I just wasn't meeting myself where I was at. And I think that Sarah probably had to tell me like 10 times, like, let yourself be a beginner. You are in the beginning stages of your business. Like, stop trying to be in your 5th year when you're literally in your 1st year, well, now 2nd year. And I think that that was such a reality check for me, because I was like, wow, that's actually really true. Why have I just not allowed myself to be in the beginning phase of anything? And I don't know if it was like, yeah, a sense of entitlement, embarrassment, whatever it was. Like, I just didn't want to be new at something. I didn't want to be looked at like a beginner. But I think that I attached so many different meanings and stories to it that I hadn't even realized. I'd done this all subconsciously, that it actually just kind of, yeah, it got taken way out of proportion. So once I became aware of it, that was the first step. And I just kind of pushed myself out of my comfort zone with little things. Like, I shared a reel the other day, and it was about how I wanted to do something different in terms of my fitness. And my partner mentioned swimming. And I was like, no, I'm not doing swimming. I was like, why not? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm such a bad swimmer. Like, I'd probably drown. And then I thought about it, and I was like, because of that response, I'm going to make myself go swimming.
I
Like,
love
I'm going
that.
to jump at the pool, and I'm just going to do it. And anyway, so I went for a swim, and I felt amazing. It was great. There were all these people like with their caps and their goggles swimming laps around me and everything. And I'm just there like floating, like backstroke and, doing just some random little swim moves. But I had fun, and I didn't care that people were looking at me, which they probably weren't even. But I didn't care that there were people around. I didn't care that I was a crap swimmer, because I was a beginner. And now I show up every week and try and get a little bit better at swimming, but it's not about getting better at swimming for me. It's about how it makes me feel.
Mm.
And also just the fact that it pushes me out of my comfort zone, and the realizations of being a beginner. It's not that bad. Like, I think some people are just embarrassed and don't want to be perceived as a beginner. I think it does come with a lot of people having an ego around that. But yeah, I think definitely swimming made me learn the importance of being a beginner,
Mm.
and that if you don't try, you're never going to know. And everyone's got to start somewhere. So that person that looks like a pro swimming next to you, they had to start learning to swim as well at some point. So you never know.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. Everyone's got to start somewhere. And if you
Yeah.
don't start somewhere, you're never going to get good at anything.
Mm.
So I do think that there's a lot around people, a fear of how people perceive them or a fear of judgment. But exactly what you said, I probably thought that people were looking at me, but at the same time, people weren't looking at me. People are doing what they want. And it just reminds me of this story. And I don't know how true this is, but it's a story that I heard. So we're going to roll with it. I had a personal trainer when I was in South Africa, just to get back into the gym and things like that
Yeah.
recently. And she was telling me a story about, because, a lot of women especially, they'll go into the gym, and if they haven't been to the gym or whatnot, they'll start to worry about what other people are thinking of them. Yeah, you understand. Like, I'm sure the listeners understand as well. You don't want to go to the gym because, like, what if people look at you? What if you're doing it wrong? Like, all of the what ifs. But she was saying there was a video on TikTok or something of a guy that was at the gym, and I don't know what he was doing. I think he was doing like a chest press or something like that. And he actually ended up passing out. Nothing fell on him, but he ended up passing out. But he was like on the ground for at least a minute before anyone even saw him. So it just goes to show how no one's literally no one is looking at you. Everyone's just worried about themselves and their gains and whatever exercise they're doing. But yeah, I don't know how true that was, but it's a good story for this because literally no one's watching you. Just stay in your own lane, do your own thing. But having a beginner mindset, you need to start somewhere to get anywhere, and if you don't start, you won't actually get anywhere. It's the same with me in business. Like, I didn't go to university. I never thought I would be or have my own business because I simply don't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about business. And let me tell you, there's a lot to learn. You know that too, probably, but also like I had to learn. I had to learn if I wanted to do what I wanted to do in life and my passion and things, but I had to start somewhere, right? And I'm not going to say I'm at the top of knowing everything, but I'm still on that journey of learning, and I always will keep that beginner mindset, because if I don't, I'm not going to actually get to the place that I want to be at because I'm letting my ego stay involved. It could be even used as what we were talking about earlier with the excuse. The excuse is, I'm just going to let my ego control me and, not show me that I can do this, but I just need to be a beginner type thing. So
yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I think that sometimes people do rob themselves of opportunities to do something great just because they're scared of starting, or they're scared of being a beginner, they're scared of judgment, whatever it is for them. And a lot of people, everyone has to overcome that at some point in their life if they want to do what they want to do. And that'd be the same for both of us in business, that I guess it's not easy mentally a lot of the time. You've got to overcome a lot of fears and just a lot of stories that come up for you along the way. And I guess they continue to do so throughout your journey. But as long as you hold the right mindset to kind of push you through that, it's a lot easier. So you kind of have something up and you can just deflect it because you're like, yep, okay, I'm not going to let that get in my way. And I guess that comes with something as simple as going for a run. Like, I'm not a runner, I can't do that. Well, you're a beginner, and if you don't ever try it, then you're never going to be a runner, are you? So I guess sometimes it's just simplifying things instead of overcomplicating it.
That actually brings up a story, and I'm going to put myself right in it right now, just to normalize this. But so I've always been quite a sporty person, and especially like a few years ago, I was right into the fitness, right into the strength workouts, I was like almost wanting to be a personal trainer type thing. Anyway, fast forward a little bit, I'm still in yachting. Okay, so for the people that don't know, I'm currently I worked on yachts for 8 years, and in this time I got really, really into fitness and gymming and all the things. But then our boss come on and was on for a lot of the time where I wasn't able to gym at all. And then I decided I wanted to start my business. So all of my time was prioritized to learning that. And then I hadn't gymmed properly, like had a full-on workout session or strength session or running or anything in, like, I would say properly in 2 years. And this is actually why I got the personal trainer that I was speaking about recently. So it hurt my ego so much, let me tell you, because I knew all of these things. I know the forms, I know the exercises, and that part was still there. It was like muscle memory, but also, or not muscle memory, but just memory. But I was not able to lift the same amount that I could. And I was strong. I'm going to toot my own horn. At that stage, I was strong. And then recently I wasn't as strong, and I had to start off slowly because I tried to go at it hard again. And I was so sore for the next week. I couldn't go back to the gym. And, it was me going through the process of like letting my ego down and then just going at my own process and starting back up. And so I'm starting again as a beginner mindset when it comes to strength workouts and all of that sort of stuff. And I don't have to lift as heavy as I used to. It's actually probably going to hurt me, not benefit me. I can work my way up to it. And that is how I'm going to work my way back up to it, because I can't just start, with the heaviest weights that I used to do, because I'm really just going to continue hurting myself. So, yeah.
I think that's a great example, though. At least it goes to show that like it is normal, and that just because we're coaches and we do have beginner mindsets, it doesn't mean it's always easy. But yeah, like you said, you've got to start somewhere, and sometimes it is just about dropping that ego and doing the thing anyway.
What about people who are ready to do something or work towards something, but they have a fear of failing or making mistakes? I'm curious as to what sort of advice you have for those people.
I'm going to be the same as everyone else and say, like, I don't believe in failing. I think that if you make a big mistake, then you're only going to learn from it. And some of my greatest learnings have come from making mistakes, and you're only going to grow and become a better person because of it, depending on how severe, obviously, the thing is. But if you're failing, if you are choosing to look at it as failure, you're giving up. That's my opinion, that I don't think you can fail if you choose to not give up on something. Say it's a business, and talk about a clothing business, and your launch goes really badly and you have no sales. Okay, we'll scrap that, start again, and let's think of the next launch. Instead of going, oh my God, I'm not going to start this business anymore. That's it. I'm closing my doors because one launch went wrong. Like, you are choosing to give up. That's you failing. But if you see it as, okay, this didn't go to plan, and you choose to, take all of your mistakes, reflect on it, think about what you could have done differently, and use that to motivate you next time and to make a change, then you're not giving up. And I think that that's where some of your greatest lessons will come from. And yeah, at the end of the day, like I've said with most things, it is what you choose to do with it. You can choose to look at it as a failure, or you can choose to look at it as your newest, greatest motivator.
I love that. I love that so much. And I also totally agree. I don't believe in failing. And I just think that any type of mistake that you make, we have to make mistakes. We have to fail at things, because if we don't know any different, right? So we have to learn, and this is how we learn. Like, you learn from your mistakes, you learn from failing, or you learn from what is successful and how you want to continue that way. Like, yeah, if I wouldn't have been able to do most things in my life if I didn't fail first and make mistakes first. And like you say, to the degree of the failure and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's super important. So for those that just do have that fear, it's like, I don't know, even think back into your own life where you have plan A didn't go to plan, and how that's actually worked out for you in the better. Or you did make a mistake and how you actually really learned from that, and that is how you are where you are today. Those types of things, because it's the same. It's the importance of the reflection that we were talking about earlier, and seeing how far you've come, right? You may have made a mistake that month, and how did you deal with that? How did you navigate that? And like, learn from that for the next time. I think it's so important for people to understand that. But so yeah.
Yeah, and I think I do talk a lot about like letting go of control with certain situations, that sometimes we can try so hard to control things, thinking that we're, pushing it one way. Like, I really want this to work out. Like, it's all or nothing. And like, it's plan A, and there's no plan B at all. And sometimes you just have to trust in whatever it is you believe in, the universe, God, whatever. Just trust in the future plan that your higher self has for you. And one of my favorite quotes is, this or something better. And it's another simple one, but like, if this doesn't work out, then something better is right around the corner. And it's the same with your quote unquote failures or mistakes. Like, if that plan A doesn't work out, then plan B is going to be so much better than you could have imagined. And this is where, like, we need to let go of the control in that situation and just let it be. Like, if you've tried your hardest and that didn't work out, then move on to the next thing. Don't look at it as a failure, look at it as a lesson. So yeah, I think that's one of my favorites.
I was actually thinking about that quote as you were talking. I'm like, this is just reminding me of the quote, this or something better. And honestly, 100%, if I could just bring myself into it again for the people, when and look, you might be going through this, you might have gone through this, who knows, but
Mm,
the breakup that I went through, I don't know, 4 years ago now, the long-term relationship that I was in, I was heartbroken, obviously, as people are when they go through breakups. And I was like, oh my gosh, I failed this relationship. I failed, this whole thing has failed. I've made so many mistakes. I was feeling stupid. I was, all the feelings that you go through when you're going through a breakup. And I just couldn't imagine my life being the same as back then in that same relationship. Like that was
mm,
my plan A, right? But this or something better, I got something so much better. And I learned from the mistakes. I learned from the things that I wanted to keep in, going forward in my next relationship, what I wanted to keep, what I wanted to learn differently or do differently, what I wanted to be treated as differently. Like you learn different things from that. And I think a lot of people are going to be able to resonate with this. And then you go into your next relationship and you're like, yeah, this is the thing that is something better. So I just think that
mm.
sometimes when the plan doesn't go to plan, it's going to be something better, or your plan is going to go to plan. So yeah, I really love that quote as well. It's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, that's literally how like everything that happened with my past two relationships and meeting my now partner, that at the time that was everything I wanted. And I thought my world was ending and that it would never be the same, all of the dramatics. But now I'm like, that was actually the greatest thing to ever happen to me, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't know how I wanted to be treated. I wouldn't know what sort of relationship I wanted. I wouldn't be as strong as I am and as resilient. And I also wouldn't be able to help other people to realize that as well if they're going through a breakup or just a tough time in general. So I think that sometimes you think that that's what you want, but just know that something better is around the corner. So I
Mm.
love that quote.
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone's going to resonate with that a lot, I think. Well,
Mm.
Eloise, this has been such an incredible chat. There is so much value in here. I always love having conversations like these. I always get really good comments on conversations like these where people can just resonate and move forward, have some advice to take with them. So thank you so much for being here. Please, before you go, let the listeners know where they can find you.
So over on Instagram at Coach with Eloise. Otherwise, I have my podcast as well, the Aligned Chaos podcast. So yeah, come over and say hi. But thank you so much for having me. I do love having chats with you, and I think that I've definitely covered a lot. So hopefully the listeners love it as well.
Amazing. That will all of those links will be in the show notes. And thank you again.
Lovely.